welcome to episode 23 of Reputation Rescue at Lazio with me, the United City FM. Welcome along. So we got a slightly stuttery start in this new season, the third season at Lazio. We played the first game against Brescia here. We only got a 0-0 draw on the opening day in the last episode. Not a brilliant start, was it? We then played Sampdoria and Spal and won both of those games pretty comfortably, really. And we've been drawn in the Champions League against Dortmund, Galatasaray and Real Madrid in our group stage. That's going to be a really hard group to get out of. And we got a 1-1 draw away from home at Dortmund in the first of those games. So that was a pretty good result, I would suggest. And today, I think I originally said I was going to come back and play Milan. I'm not sure why I did that when Zebres are sitting right there, Juventus. And the whole point of this series is to go hunting for Zebres and try and topple them at the top of Serie A in 3 seasons. And this is our 3rd season, so we've got to do it this year. So we're going to be playing that game today. We've got an away game against Zebra, so we'll probably go with a defensive structure to start with and see if we can suppress the game somewhat. And then even though Serie A is definitely our focal point for this particular series, I'm going to come back next episode and play that home game against Real Madrid. Just why wouldn't you, in the Champions League group stage? And then after that, the following episode will be the derby against Roma. So those are the next few episodes that we got coming up. In terms of where we sit currently, though, if we go and have a look at the league table, you can see we're sitting in 4th place after having played 3 games ourselves, and Zebra sitting in 8th place. They've already caused a little bit of a problem for themselves with a couple of draws, which is good for us, I guess. So, you know, they're not in imperious form just at the moment. Napoli ran them really close last season, and they've started particularly well. So, yeah, there's some things to look out for here, but I'm reasonably happy now that we've got a couple of wins under our belt, that we've started pretty well. So we'll see whether we can improve that today with a really unexpected 3 points maybe against Juventus. So we'll have to wait and see on that one. But hopefully, if nothing more, I desperately want to compete with them and show that we've made steps in the right direction. So there's not an awful lot more to tell you about really, because we're still so early in the season. But if we go in the tactics, I am going to switch this up and we are going to go into our defensive setup just to start the game. So I'm actually going to rejig this starting lineup as well. So if you give me a second to do that, I forgot to do that before we started, and I'll let you know why we've made the decisions that we have. So I have made a couple of changes. You'll probably notice what they are immediately. But firstly, Immobile is playing a slightly deeper role today just because I don't want him isolated too much. So this middle 3 have changed slightly. We've moved Milinkovic-Savic into that central midfield role on the box-to-box midfielder role. And Gelson comes in as one of the 2 holding players, and Alberto drops out just for this. I want it much more defensively secure, and these 2 are the key for doing that. And I think Milinkovic-Savic is a better option in that role, just in terms of being able to get up and down the pitch a little bit. The other major change that we made is Correa comes out and Brian Gill goes in on the left-hand side. Correa sits as an inside forward up here, much better than he does down in the wing position, really. It's not really a natural winger. Brian Gill is a bit more so, so I brought him in to play that role. Other than that, the structure of the side is that we are going to be much more defensively secure, so that's why some of the circles here aren't quite as filled as they normally are, because they're playing slightly different roles. But as a collective, I think this is the best way to start the game against Zebra and see if we can potentially just stifle them for the first half specifically, and then maybe we'll come out of our shell a little bit in the second half. Of course, if this goes terribly wrong and we're 2-0 down in 10 minutes or whatever, we can always change it up and go more attacking and see if we can give it a go. But I think just at this point, this is what I want to start the game with. In terms of any actual injury issues and stuff, you can see that Locatelli's just coming back from a bit of a knock, but he's got a little bit of a match sharpness issue, but conditioning is fine. The one player out today is Muru. He's still going to be out for a little while. He's got another few days left. He's been out for a week or 2. So that's been a bit of a problem, just because, I mean, Jordan Lukaku is particularly a decent enough replacement for Muru, but Muru is just a bit better, basically. If we go and have a look at Muru, you can see that he's just all round, hasn't got quite the greens that Lukaku has and others have in certain places, but I think is all round just a better player. So he's a bit of a miss. But other than that, everybody else is pretty fit at the early part of the season. We've got an issue here with the match sharpness because he hasn't played much for Gelson, but he'll just have to soldier on today and get through the first half specifically, and then we might change it up, basically. We'll have to wait and see. But so that all means that it's Strakosha in goal, Felipe and Acerbe in central defence, with Zappacosta at right back, Lukaku at left back, Gagliardini, Gelson and Milinkovic-Savic in central midfield, with Lazzari on the right, Brian Gill on the left and Immobile up top, and pretty much everybody else on the bench. So let's get into today's game and see what happens. So I went with we're underdogs here. That suits us down to the ground. Let's go and cause an upset. Whether we will or we won't, I don't really know. It's going to be very difficult. Zebra at home are always going to be the hardest game you come up against in Serie A each year, aren't they, really? They're playing a 4-3-3 formation. Quite a solid central midfield. So if we can get on the outsides of them, maybe that will give us some joy at some point in the game. But it's pretty much what I was hoping for, to be honest. A lot of the time we get a very dull first half and it's a bit disappointing. But today, this is exactly what I want. Let's frustrate them, give them no sense that they can get a chance against us particularly. And then at half-time, we can boost the players again, go back out into the second half, hopefully, still in with a sense of being in this match. If we could nick a goal, that would be even better. Let's see if we can get a chance to move the ball up the pitch without making any errors and see if we can carve out an opportunity. And so far, we're keeping the ball quite nicely in that sort of left-back area. And we're coming back out into the central area, back into the left point again. It's okay, but they're pushing us back, and there is the mistake. You could feel it coming, couldn't you? And they've absolutely made us pay for it. And it was too much on that left full-back position of those tappy one-touch passes back and forth between, I think, Lukaku and Acerbe, and it just didn't work out for us in the end. You could see them pushing and pushing and pushing, and I wanted somebody to come and show for them to pass out to and then move the ball up the pitch. But Zebra did a great job, and Lacazette playing for Zebra now up top really punishes us. So it's really unfortunate because I think for the first 40 minutes of that game, we were doing exactly what I wanted us to do. Look, the possession stats are up. We managed to get them down to a reasonable amount of shots. Haven't had too much ourselves though, so we're going to go into the tactics page and we are going to have to change it back up now. Unfortunately, it didn't. The gamble didn't quite work out, which is just a little bit disappointing, isn't it? So what we're going to do to change up? Well, Gelson's going to come back out again just because of that match sharpness, and we're going to need Alberto. So we're going to switch those two and begin to look like our old selves a little bit in terms of our structure. That's the only personnel change I'm going to make at half time. We are going to up this though into a positive style of play in the controlled possession and see if we can get something from that. And then in the team talk, we're going to passionately go, I don't think any of you played as well as you're capable of, just to push them a little bit to do slightly better than they have done. And let's see if we can come out in the second half and get an early impetus from some good piece of play and maybe get back into this game if possible. But, you know, as I say, it was all going to be tricky. Whichever style of play and formation I used, I felt like we were going to be up against it today. So I'm not too disappointed at this point. But if we could get something from this match, that would be fantastic. And what we nearly did was nearly give them a second opportunity there for an easy goal. First one was eventually cleared out, but that second shot for them should have been much better. And we were a bit lucky. So we've got to change a couple of bits of personnel here. We're going to take Lazzari out and we're going to put... we're going to put Anderson down that right-hand side, and we're going to switch it up again in a second, so that will make more sense in just a moment. And then we've got Immobile again up top, not quite ruling the roost in that sense. And then we pause the game, and we go back into the tactics page, and we're going to go into our third formation, which is this one, which is the Gegenpress. And whilst he doesn't look particularly great at doing this, Anderson is a good attacking player from a wide position, and I think he'll do okay out there just for now. And we are going to make sure that rather than positive, we're going very attacking on it, because we've got 15 minutes of the game left and we've got nothing to lose at this point. And then once we go back into play, we're going to shout and say, push forward, and just see if we can get anything from changing the style up. They're still in their 4-3-3, so if we can use those wide areas, there's still chances there. But obviously, on the ball, they're producing some of their own chances, which is unfortunate, but the way that football works, basically. You know, it's going to be hard to suppress the likes of this team all the way through a match. And I think we've done okay, but with 5 minutes to go, they're now holding on to the ball, and we've got to find a way to nick it from them. And we're not quite getting in on those challenges, are we? And they had a good chance, and Strakosha manages to push it over the bar, but none of the gegenpress seemed to be working. We weren't harrying and hurrying them and pushing at them. We were just kind of letting them drift the ball sort of across the pitch, and it's a bit disappointing, really. And so they find themselves again in possession just outside our penalty box. Can we find a way to get this foot in and nick the ball from them? We didn't there, and the highlight dies, and the time is ticking away, and again it's their highlight, and again it's Strakosha having to scramble across the goal and push that out wide for another corner kick for Juventus. And we are really under pressure, aren't we? And there's no way to relieve it until this point, and then we just boot it back to them. It's actually quite disappointing as a performance, really. I think that the result is fine in the sense of this is always going to be the hardest game of the season. And we went there and we did okay. We suppressed them enough that they only managed to get one goal. But our performance wasn't good enough ourselves. On the ball, we didn't do enough with it when we had it. So that's a bit disappointing, really. So we'll go back into the dressing room, and we're going to have to tell them that, you know, calmly, I'm not happy with that performance. The result was fine, but the performance not so much. It's not going to help our league spot. It's going to mean that Zebra probably jump over us, maybe. I can't remember exactly where they were in terms of the points, but we'll go and check that out in a second. But there you go. I mean, that's the ideal news headline, isn't it, to describe the game. They grab a deserved win just because we had a few moments, but we didn't really challenge them enough. And we didn't put ourselves on the line enough. And maybe that's a bit of an issue with this particular group of players, that they're decent enough on the ball, but if you ask them to put in a shift and really bed in, maybe they're not quite good enough for that sort of style of play. But anyway, yep, we have dropped down a bit. We're now in 7th place, with most teams having played their 4th game of the season. So I think after a bit of a stuttery start, that's not terrible. We are still well within shouting distance of all of these clubs above us. So it's, you know, by no means a bad situation just at this point to, you know, worry about. But we've got some good games coming up. Milan and Atalanta are going to be really tricky ones in the next couple of games before we go back into the Champions League. Then Sassuolo and Udinese before we come back and play that game against Real Madrid in the next episode. So there's some good Serie A matches in there just to see if we get more points on the board and begin to look like our old selves from the back end of last season. If you remember, first half of that season was terrible. Second half, we looked like champions for most of it. And we need to find a way to get back in that routine and back in that swing of picking up the points and picking up the points and picking up the points. So hopefully we can do that in the next couple of weeks. But that's going to do it for today. A little bit difficult, isn't it? Because it was against Zebra. They are the best team in the league. We didn't do badly, but it was just a little bit flat and disappointing. And I wanted a bit more passion from them. But anyway, that'll do it. Thanks for joining me today. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and join my United City community. Click that like button for me. Help me get seen by lots of other people. Go check out my merch store in the description below. There's a link. But until next time, take care of yourselves. I'll see you very soon. Bye for now.